Everybody, it's Andrew Brown, and welcome to the AWS Cloud Project Bootcamp, where I'm going to show you how we created this diagram. And the reason I decided to make this video, I did sign it as homework. I just know some folks are having a hard time with it, and so I thought if I walked you through it by recreating it myself in a trial account, I'll find out if there's any limitations to the trial account, as well as just making sure that you can get through this bootcamp, because I want to help you all the way. So this is the one we're referencing. We will go ahead and create ourselves a new document. Now, I don't know why this one is here. It just came with it. And I'm not sure, am I in am I in the right account here? Because I'm seeing this, because I have this one open. So it's not necessarily my document. It's the one that I just have open here. So I just want to double check to make sure. Hold on here. Good, okay, so that's read-only, good. All right, so what I'm gonna do is go ahead and create myself a new chart, and I'm going to give this a moment to open. And we'll go up here in the top, and as you can see, we have collaborators. That's okay. I'm curious, can we do sharing in the free account? So sharing with a shareable link is possible. If we go view, we can do that as well here. So I believe that you can share this in the thing. People are saying you had to pay for it. I don't believe that's a paid feature. Just going over here for a moment. Editable documents, objects. There's nothing here saying that you cannot share it. So just to really make sure that's the case, I'm just going to put a document here just so no one gets stuck here. Test object. And I'm going to log into my Lucid account on incognito here for a moment. And then we'll find out for sure if that's the case. Because if I'm here, right, incognito, and I share this link, copy link over to here, it's going to ask me to be logged in, right? So what I'm going to do is just log into this one here, and we'll find out here in a second. Just to rule that out, okay? Okay, so I'm logged into my paid Lucid account. This is my free account. I'm going to go here to share. I'm going to copy that link. I'm going to go back. I'm going to paste that in here. Okay, and so I can see the document. So I just want you to know that there are no limitations on the trial account, at least at this point in time, that I can see that's going to prevent you from using it. I just had to call that out because there was confusion in the Discord, and students sometimes share misinformation, and so I just wanted to make sure that was clear even for myself. So what we are going to do is go ahead and build this out. So the first thing we need is our architectural diagrams. I'm going to go to my shape library. I'm going to checkbox on AWS Architecture 2021, and we're going to select those shapes. Now we have our shapes. I like going to page settings and turning on infinite canvas. I don't like seeing the grid, so if your grid is on, you can turn it off by showing off the grid there. So what do we need? We need first an AWS account to put everything in. AWS has these icons. And by the way, if you're wondering where these icons come from, AWS Architecture icons. You can go here, and most providers have this, where you can download PowerPoint presentations. You can make them in PowerPoint if you really want to, but this is the asset package. So you download the asset package. It's just a bunch of SVG files. When I create diagrams, I don't even make them in Lucid Charts because I want them to make them look really good. So I use Illustrator. But for general purpose people, they're using Lucid Charts software like that. You can go down below and you can see there's all sorts of software that you can use to make charts. So it's not just Lucid. A lot of folks like Dryo. I don't personally like Dryo. I find it not to be a very good program. But you can see that there's a bunch here. I do use Lucid Charts quite a bit. But yeah, if I'm making really fancy diagrams, I really pull out the fancy, expensive software. So anyway, what we're going to do here is start dragging stuff out. Actually, I might just open up the this PDF here just before, or PowerPoint presentation before we move on, just because I want to show you what it looks like. So I'll download this here, because it kind of shows you there's a structure to these things, and they actually do make some recommendations about how you should make diagrams. So that might be a good indicator first. So off screen, I'm just opening this up in PowerPoint. We'll give it a moment here. It is now open. And here it is. So AWS, if you read through it here, they'll go and say things like how these icons should be used, right? So these are groups. They show connections between multiple services. Arrows, they describe the flow of information. You have a service icon. They represent a service. We have a resource icon. They represent a resource. It could be a resource within a service. Then you have general purpose icons. Here are the elements. So there's the group. Here's nested service icons, resource group icons, right? So this is saying we're using the auto-scaling load balancer, but then there's this one down below here. Or sorry, auto-scaling, then there's auto-scaling groups. So there's some that kind of overlap, and you use your best judgment to make it work. They have guidelines. These aren't rules, these are guidelines. That means you don't have to follow them, but if you want to make them look good and make them look like what AWS makes them look like, you can follow these rules. If you're presenting at an AWS conference, they probably want you to follow these guidelines for sure. So if we go down below, they're just showing us some do's and don'ts. So like nested groups, when you have groups within an intergroup, you should have at least 0.05 buffer. Okay. Don't crop service icons, don't flip them, don't change the shape. Arrows generally are like this. So I don't know if they have, yeah, they have arrows that point both ways, I think. Icon labels. So here they're just suggesting not to break them up, have them as one line. I do this all the time. The second one, I don't listen to them that. This is something new I never saw before for callouts, but it's not like a new thing in diagrams. People use them, but I've never seen AWS show them to us like this before. Like have like predefined ones for us. They might even have some rules over here about mixed callout sizes within the size of the diagram. I thought maybe something like architectural, but it's nothing important there. So here's an example of an architectural diagram. Here's an example of another architectural diagram. And then they break down based on icon categories. So here are general backgrounds. So there's that. Then you can create custom groups. This is something new they didn't have before. I used to make these by hand all the time when I wanted something that did not fit in the library. They have this. They used to say, don't ever use these. They said, never use diagonals. But it looks like they reversed their decision. And you'll see in my diagram, I use diagonals, even though my brain, I was like, the guideline always said never to use them. You have general icons. They can be used for anything. I've never seen these folder ones before, so that's cool. And then they break it down based on service. So you see the service and the resources underneath, right? And then it just goes and goes and goes and goes and goes like this, okay? So this is one way of finding icons. So like if you don't know the name of the thing that you're looking for, you can use that as a reference. And that is very useful to have. Let's go back to Lucid Charts here. And there it loads. So the idea is that we need to have the AWS account cloud. So that is a group. You can hover over here to figure it out. So there's one with the cloud. There's one with the AWS logo. You can choose what you like. I can go with the cloud for today for fun. Okay. And I mean, that could represent the cloud, but this one could represent an account. So if this was a physical diagram, we'd actually put the account ID up here. But we're just doing a logical diagram, and we're going to call this Cruddur logical diagram. I can try bumping this up. I don't know if it's going to work. No, I can't bump it up. I'm so sorry, folks. This is the size of the UI. You'll just have to squint. So we have that as the all-encompassing thing to say we're in AWS Cloud. We could have like AWS Cloud and AWS accounts inside of it, but we will drag out some stuff. So like we could put the VPC in there. So it is this one here. We have that. We have the ECS cluster. So I'm going to hover over here and find it. So we have one here somewhere. ECS cluster. Where are you? If it's not there, we'll scroll on down. Sometimes they might be under their own compute section. Interesting. We go to the top here, we can search. So I'm going to just put in ECS. There it is, non-standard ones. So maybe these are coming from not the library. I thought they were, but these are ones I want. So we'll drag it out. And now we have ECS container. Generally, you want like some kind of bounding box so you know that these things exist. We need this here. You have to watch out. Sometimes these icons, see this one here? This is ECS. This is the old style icon. I personally like the look of them. I think they're cool, but lots of people don't like them because then they think that you're using really old icons and you don't know what you're doing, so, or your information's out of date. So you might want to avoid that. So here, like when I searched it, you got to be careful. Like I drag this one out. This is the old icon. So to make sure you have the new icons, we'll just clear that out and we'll go down to the section that is appropriate and then drag it out. So sometimes you got to search, sometimes you got to know what to do. There's a few different container variants. This one has a little computer in it. This one has another little computer in it. And there's some variations on there. This one represents the ECR registry, which we didn't actually put in the diagram. We could easily put that in there. But we'll drag this out. Whoops. Got to be careful with that dragging. We'll drag that out. And so that's our first one. I took out the name here because there wasn't a lot of room to work with. So that's one container. That's a back container. And then I'm just going to drag out a text. So I have a little bit more flexibility. And we'll say front end. And then we'll go here and we will do back end. Just to make this a bit easier, I'm going to tighten these up. There we go. Okay. And we can line it up. This should auto align for us. It's pretty good. I'm going to put them here for the time being. And we'll drag a line in between here. So I'm going to click the icon or the line, and at the top here, we can drop down and we can now have two lines. If you want to make it thicker to make it easier to see, we'll do that. I can zoom in here. Again, I keep forgetting that the screen is really small, so I just zoomed in here for you so you can see a lot better. So there's communication happening between here. If we double click here, we can put text right here, REST API. So that's, I think, what we had there before. Good. We need a load balancer, so I'm going to go here and just scroll on down for my shapes. A load balancer is a networking thing, right? So coming back to here, if I wanted to find a load balancer, I assume that there's a networking category. We go to the top here. We're going to look for networking. Here we go. Hyperlink to it, please. It's not jumping to it. These are hyperlinks, so they should jump to it. Maybe enable editing is what I need to do. How do I jump? Well, I can scroll. That's totally fine. We're looking for networking. Don't blink. Okay, we'll find it here in a second. Machine learning. We just saw it. Great. So, here, networking, content delivery. We look here. We say, okay, transit gateway, that's not it. CloudFront, that's not it. Route 53. It could be a VPC thing, so I'm looking down here. So we see NAT gateway, not the right thing that we want. It just looks kind of like a load balancer to me, and these gateways and load balancers are similar. That's why I was thinking that. There's app mesh. There we go. Elastic load balancer, ALB, NLB, classic load balancer, gateway load balancer. So you could take the service icon and put it in there if you wanted to represent it. So like I used this one here. Like sometimes I use a service because there's no good resource underneath or it's just confusing. But like if you're doing a logical layer, a lot of times you can just use the service icons and not do the resource icons. But when you do the physical layer, then you're using all the little resource icons underneath. I prefer to use the application load balancer. I'm not going to copy and paste from here. I'll just get it from Lucid Charts so that it is high quality. So coming back over to here, we will go and go under networking. What color is networking? Purple. Here. And I usually tell what it is based on looking at it. Here, application load balancer. So I'm going to say load balancer. We'll drag that out here. Okay, so we got our load balancer. We want row 53. We're in the right place too for that as well. You learn the icons over time, right? So I know what they are now. So I wrote DNS here because that's what row 53 is. It's just a way of managing your DNS. If it helps, you can do like, sometimes I do this in diagrams. I'll go route 53, and then I'll bold the bottom if that helps you. Remember, you have to remember what this is, so make it so that you understand. Then we have authentication. That might be security, like security identity, right? So it's probably under here. We will look for the icon for Cognito. Tell me when you see it. There it is. So there's Cognito. That's our authentication. Okay. We need, what else? The browser. We'll come back to that in a moment. Let's get these icons out here. We can search as well. So AppSync. AppSync's a newer service, so they don't have an older icon, so there's no way we can make a mistake. Sometimes they're red, sometimes they're pink. The reason why is that it can be considered for mobile apps or for application integration. We aren't using it for mobile, but that doesn't mean we can't use the red icon, but we'll use this one because it's more automatic, the thing that it's supposed to be. But if you did use the red one, I wouldn't care. I wouldn't even know. So just get it up there on the board. We need DynamoDB, so we'll search for that. DynamoDB. Here it is. And I want you to notice that some icons, look at this. So there's the old like 3D icons like this. There is ones with a gradient, and then there's ones that are flat. So if we look here, this one's flat, this one's flat, flat. This one's a gradient, this one's flat. You probably should try to keep them all the same. I'm not going to cherry pick over this if you mix them, but I'm just saying, like, if you're trying to make a pristine looking diagram, especially for presentation, make them consistent. So I'll take the flat one here. We'll take those two out. We need RDS, so we'll type in RDS. That's the old icon. There it is, RDS. We need serverless caching. So this is Memento. Memento does not have an icon in here, so I actually had to import it. So if I type in Memento, go Memento. If I go up here and inspect it, it's SVG right there. So I'm looking, because that's what you have to import into Lucid Chart, and most your diagrams should all be SVGs. So I want this. Okay, so the way I'm going to get this is I'm just going to right click it. I'm going to edit as HTML. I'm going to copy its contents. Okay. And then I need an editor. So let me pull up an editor for a moment here. I'm just deleting out some stuff off screen here. I'm going to go here, and this is my local editor on VS Code. I'm going to paste the contents in here. Okay. And so we will go here and say File. We'll save as. I'm dragging off the screen just to hide my desktop if there's anything on it. And I'm naming this Memento SVG. Okay. Now, this should look like what is shown here, but SVGs are a little bit silly because sometimes you have to play around with the formatting to get them to work right. So if it doesn't work on the import, you know, you sometimes have to fiddle with the syntax. What I'll do is I'll go over to, back over here, and we'll import a shape. And here's a good question is, are we allowed to import shapes in the free tier? I don't know. So if we go to here, shapes, import shapes down below. Just going to bring up my screen here so I can see what I'm doing. I'm just not sure if I'm, there we go. So yeah, we import shapes. So add existing library, make a new library. We're making a new library. We're going to choose a file. We're going to go to our desktop, choose Memento, and it should show us a preview. Now it's showing blank. That's not a good indicator. That usually means that it's not going to work. But we'll say use selected shape. And it's not always clear what's going on here. So we'll clear this out, and at the bottom it should show it. So if I drag this out, it's blank. I can't even see it. I wonder if I can change the color here. No. So this is a problem. This is not specific to Lucid Charts. This is just a problem with SVG. So you can see, I can actually see it, right? If I hover over here, I see the outline. If I was to increase the width, I bet. Oops, not the arrow. I don't want the arrow. I want to increase this. Why is it not? Oops. There we go. So it is there, right? But there's some kind of defect going on with the SVG, and it's the design of Memento. So Memento, if you're watching, you need to make an adjustment to this. So the way we can fix this is going back over to here and fiddling around with the code. I know this seems like we shouldn't have to do this, but sometimes it's what we have to do to get our things to look the way we want them to look. So I'm just looking for a way to stop wrapping. It's a bit hard because I can't see with this font size, so I'm just going to bump this down here so I can see. This has a fill none on it, And then we have the paths. Current color. Fill is current color. At the end of the paths, I'm seeing this current color thing, right? It says current color. I'll bump it up again for you. Where is it? Current color, right? I want to wrap this. Just trying to find where the wrap is. View, word wrap. Alt-Z it. So I'm noticing the fill is none here, which is not great. And then down below we have current color. So if we want to debug this, I'm trying to do it without opening Illustrator or fancy software. We can probably drag it into our browser. So you can see, this is the icon on my desktop. I'm gonna try to drag it as a new tab here. There it is. And it looks correct, right? But however it's being interpreted is not. So what we'll do here is go and change this fill to something like green or black. Okay, I'm gonna save that. And we'll go back over here. I'll put all three of them because I don't know if it takes partials. So 6 zeros. Take that out there. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. That's the hex code for black. Okay. We go RGB 000. I'm gonna show you this here. Right. This is I know it's small. I'll bump it up. Okay. So 000 is hex code 0. So if I want to be a different color like this, and maybe we could try a different color like this, that's how we'll get that color. Going back over here, we will paste this in. Whoops. Paste that in. Save it. I'm going to go back here. I'm going to refresh this page and see if it takes effect. So I'm not getting good results here. It did not change the color. So I do not trust this icon. So what I'm going to do, and you're not going to be able to do this, but I'm going to do it, and then we're going to figure out what's wrong with it. And then you just adjust the code. So I'll go to Illustrator here. This is fancy software. This is expensive software. We'll open it up because if I export it out of Illustrator, it might just normalize the format for me, and then we can look at the difference of what was used to fix it. Okay? Sometimes this is the only way to fix them, honestly. There is another program called Inkscape, which is open source. I just don't know how to use it. Come on. There we go. So I'm going to zoom in. I'm going to go to wire mode. Again, you don't have the software. You're just watching me do it. And so I'm just going to go here and just kind of see what the parts look like. So this looks like there shouldn't be an issue. So I'm going to go here and say File, Export As, and Memento 2. Okay. And it has some settings that it can do to process it. We'll say OK. And now what I want to do is open both those files. So we have this one here, right? Memento SVG. And then we have number 2, which is here. Yeah, open, it's fine. And we'll view this. Where's word wrap? Word wrap, where are you? View, word wrap. Okay, so it looks different, I think. Yeah, it already looks different. So what's the difference here? I mean, this wraps with XML. This one does not have a fill on it. The code looks the same in some sense. So the question is, will this one work? So I'm going to go import it, and if it is, then I can provide the code for you, but maybe we'll just try to modify the old one, see if we can fix it. So what we'll do here is go back here. We'll delete this out. We'll import data. We'll go to shapes. Go down here to my libraries. I know it's not very easy to find. Go into this library. I'm going to add a new one. We'll do Memento 2. There it is. So there's something there that made it work. I want to just delete these here for a second. Okay. Let's go back here and see if we can just correct our code. Okay. So this one, what is the difference between these? Well, this one does not set a width or a height on it. So let's take those out. Okay. It sets a view box. This one's 004340. 004040. I don't think that matters. It's pretty much the same. This one has a layer. There's nothing wrong with having layers, but we don't have a need for it. So we'll just, well, actually this one's fine. I mean, like this one here doesn't have a layer, but it doesn't matter. It doesn't have a fill, but that's okay. We can take that out. This one has current color on these fills. We don't need those either, so we'll take those out. I'm thinking that the code is the same, like all these points are the same. So here this says 39664Z7. I'm no expert at reading this stuff. I'm just going through it and trying to figure out 69407. Is that the same? No, it looks like they did something slightly different. You can see there's two paths. So like one is probably for just going here. One is probably for this piece. And then one is for this piece, right? In the original file. And then over here, we have one path here, one path there, right? So what I'm going to do is maybe just taking this XML encoding is what's going to fix it. This one's obviously a little bit more of a mess and looks like it's a little bit more complex. I think it's only like looks more complex because the numbers are larger. So they're like it probably has the same amount of points. It's just it's for that reason. I'm going to go here and we will paste in this. And maybe it just needed this encoding, this version 1 thing to help it out. Okay. So we'll go back here, and that was saved. I did Control S on it. We'll go back and import shapes. And new library is our name of our library. We'll choose Memento 1. There we go. So you know what was probably missing? Was just this XML tag. So yeah, if you ever have issues with SVGs and you want them to get the right way, make sure they have this tag in here as one check for you. Could be other things. So we'll go and we'll select this shape. And we'll drag it on in. And so the idea is that it's set to fill by default as black, but we can change the color, right? And so if you want to be fun, we can go to Memento and look at what their colors are. And I can see that this color is this green here. So I'm going to right click this here, go inspect. And I'm going to look for the color for fun. So on the left hand side, there's this background color. That's not the one I'm looking for. I'm looking for the one when it's not on hover. So this is for hover. This is the standard button right here, color right here. And I realize it's small. I can see if I can pump this up here for you. Sorry. Where was that? Well, anyway, the point is that I grabbed the color. You can use pickers and stuff like that. But anyway, we'll go back over here. And I'll select this. I'll see if I can change it to a custom color. I'll click the little plus here. We'll put the hex code in. Well, it's not the green I want, but it's one of the greens. All right, come on, can I get the right color here? Let's try this again. I'm gonna inspect the text. I know it looks black probably to you, but it's actually this off green color. Where are you? Let's go to computed values. Here it is. There it is. Whoops. Let's go back to computed. I'll grab the RGB from here. 37, 57, 43. 37, 57, 43. 37, 57, 43. RGB. And we'll scroll down. And that's the code we want. That's how I do it. It was easier than pasting it. So we'll go back here. I'm going to add the color. We'll paste that in. Looks right to me. Done. There we go. Now it's the right green. Cool, eh? All that work to get the right icon in. But seriously, it makes the diagram 100 times better. This doesn't come with a text field under it. So I'll just scroll up all the way up. We'll drag one out here. And we'll just say serverless cache. All right. So we go back over to here. I made a little dot here. It's because we were going to originally have a legend, but then I just took it out. So we'll put that back in for a second. So, I mean, this is a lot. I don't want to do all of it for you, so we'll just do a little bit more here, and I'll get the lines dragged out, and then I'll leave some for you to do. So what we'll do here is, all the services are in place. Oh, browser, that's the one I want. So there are some general use shapes that I think we can grab. And they're using icons 2021. So there was icons that were in the icon set that I showed you in the PowerPoint that aren't actually in there yet. So like if I was to go to general, there's general shapes somewhere here. There's like gray, here they are. You see like we don't see the folders and stuff. So like if we go back to PowerPoint over here, and we scroll all the way up. And we go down to the general icons. Like these folders aren't in there, right? And there's probably a browser one. So like a browser would be the client. And so the reason I didn't use this one is I don't think it showed up here. That's why. So I went here. Oh, it's there. I probably just didn't like the look of it. I probably wanted a browser. Like this one. Do they not have one? I guess they don't. If this was Illustrator, I would go and find one that looks like a browser, like the SDK, and then go make it. But this is probably more appropriate to the icon set. This icon here is actually from the Azure set. I just know based on the look of it, and I just typed in browser to find it. So I went browser, right? But it's not really the right one, like to match for AWS. So what we'll do is we'll just zoom out here for a second, and we will drag out some lines. So we'll drag out a line here. This goes to the row 53 here. We'll go here and drag a line out to this one. We will drag out a line to this one. And I'm going to put API dot. And we could say this is the front end. So this is app. App dot. Sorry, I'll zoom in. I realize it's small. Okay. We have app dot, API dot. Now, really, this is cruddur.com for me because I have the domain. For you, you might want to put it in here for fun, or you could just leave dot in there. If you did a physical diagram, like one layer down, you would have all these things specified properly, right? But I'm just going to leave that in there for now, like this. We'll zoom out. So now the question is, where does the load balancer exist? Does a load balancer exist in the AWS account, the virtual private cloud? That's for you to figure out. I know where it is. It's sitting here for the time being, but you might want to know a little bit more about it because like it does actually deploy things underneath into the VPC. It's kind of interesting to research. So we have our icon here. I'll just move it somewhere else for fun. And then just see how we have to work with our design if we move it around. So we go here and I'm going to say both ways because it communicates that way, I suppose. And then we have our serverless cache here. And I'm going to drag out a circle as an indicator. I'm going to have fun. I'm going to make it a hexagon. And then we will just increase the lines here, and I will make this a fun color like green. We'll drag it here. I'm just trying to make it different from the other one just so you know that you don't have to do it exactly the same way. Okay. Notice like when I did this, these lines don't look great, so you have to move things around a bit. Keeps wanting to drag out new lines. I don't want to do that. Make this a little bit smaller so it's not as overpowering. We will drag this smaller here to make this a bit easier. Okay. We could indicate this as a special line. We might need a legend as to why, but we might say like, well, this is because this is intersecting this one and it's not an AWS service, therefore we use this line. You could do that. So there's that. I mentioned like how it was being used. That's going between DynamoDB. I actually have it on the wrong one. So what we'll do is bring this down here. And we will move this over to here. Like this. Whoops. Sometimes it just doesn't drag very nice. And I'll click this line here and drag it this way. As you can see, you have to play around with it to make it work. But again, it's intersecting with this line, which is kind of makes it hard to see. So what I would do is just bring this down here. Sometimes it unsnaps, so you just have to keep moving around. And you got to play around with the lines to make it look nice. So what I'll do here is just drag this like this. And see this one here, I have to bring it to front. So we'll say bring to front. Where's bring to front? Arrange, bring to front. There we go. And we'll bump up these lines for fun. Now again, AWS has a styling guide. You can follow it to the T if you want. You can not if you choose to do so. Okay. Serverless cache, we'll drag that over there. So those are there. We have our app sync. You know, there's like different advantages for laying things out different ways. You know, sometimes you just play around with it, figure it out. So this technically communicates with both of these. here, like both this service, this one, trying to tell it to go down there like that. There we go. And then we have this one as well. So I could go and do this. Do that as well. I could indicate these as special lines because they're, I don't know, they're special. They're doing something different. You could even color them. But again, you have to make it clear why you're doing that. You can't just make things different colors for fun. But I'm doing them for fun because we're just demonstrating that you can change colors. But again, you want to say why in your legend. So now we have those going here like that. And then we could do this here like this. So now just notice my text is in the way. So I'm going to take this. Whoops. Come on, move there. Yeah, maybe we want to take this out of here and then put this here. Boom, boom. Notice these lines aren't as thick. Okay, going back to our diagram here. Oh, we have authentication we're missing, so we'll go over here. How did we do that? To the back end. Technically, yeah, well, both the client is doing this, and then the back end is doing this. So we might put this here. In different kinds of diagrams, you can make them jump other wires. I don't know if you can do that in Lucid. I've never looked at that. Like in like a circuit board layout design. This is like hardware stuff. I'm gonna see if I can see one. Sometimes when a layer jumps over another wire, it's not showing it here, but sometimes they'll do like a little wire jump. Wire jump. Lucid Charts wire jump. Line jumps. Let's see if we can do that. How do I make a line jump? Ah, see this little thing? I should use these. I don't know why I'm not using them. So page settings. Let's try it out for fun. Page settings. See, I'm always learning new things because when I'm teaching, I have reasons to look at other things. I just make these diagrams and don't always investigate this stuff. Line settings down below, if you can see, show line jumps. So now we got a little line jump. There we go. That makes our diagram like 10 times easier to look at. And then it kind of frees you up and you're like not so worried about lines, right? So I go here and kind of do this. We got a little line jump, which is cool. And so you can see that there are lots of ways of making diagrams, right? You don't have to do it exactly like I did it. You just got to make it nice and clear. You know, it could be just like, you know, you have a limited amount of space in your like your presentation that you're putting it in, and so that's the reason why you might do that. And I'm just tightening it up, making it a little bit smaller. We'll just keep tightening this up for fun. Tighten this up more. So it's up to you when you think this is done. DynamoDB, these are supposed to be in the AWS account. I just forgot about that. So what we'll do is drag this down here. And then technically this is outside our account, right? So we go here, whoops. Okay, sometimes you figure these things out as you go. What happens if we drag this up? It does a bit of a jump, that's kind of cool. Or like, you know, what could have been better is like we take this here, let's take these lines out. What happens if we just put these in between? Because we have one on the right and one on the left. What if we took AppSync and put it in the middle? Like that. Oh yeah, there we go. Then we could do this. We got to play around with this a bit here. Here we go. It might be better to show this like as a filter. Whoops. I don't feel like changing it, but you know what I mean? Like maybe represent kind of a filter. Sometimes there's filter icons. These things actually do mean things, but we're just not respecting whatever these are in traditional UML charts. This is looking better. Like we could even say like, okay, well this stuff on the outside, maybe we could give it a special custom box. So I could go here and just be like, put this here. Right, and I could go at the top here and say third-party services. All right. Yeah, so that gives you kind of an idea. It's a bit like art. But yeah, it really just depends on what needs you're trying to meet. So this is the diagram I created. I hope you'll like it. And I hope you take some creativity and make something unique. And remember, you can share the link. You can put it in your homework, and there should be no issues. Ciao.